So I want to talk to you guys about the gradient from trust to transaction. We want to be able to get patients to able to say yes for care when insurance doesn't cover that. And that is getting more and more challenging. Insurance is like trying to find every reason not to cover for something. And there's a lot of options. This field is progressing, but our insurance companies lag behind, right? So this talk is about selling cash-based care without losing the clinician in the process. You know, you don't want to feel like you're selling a used car. You want to be able to deliver the best care you could possibly deliver to the patient, and you want to be able to do it in a way that you keep your integrity intact. So we want to look at that. So my name is Sean Kirk. I'm a physical therapist. I've been a private practice coach for a long time, right? Working with a large number of private practices over the years. So we're going to look at something big like a StemWave versus maybe something smaller like dry needling. Now I will say the vast majority of people that I've come in contact with that utilize dry needling basically give it away. They'll pay to get people certified and then they give it away. Or maybe if they're somewhat bold, they'll sell the needles, or occasionally they'll sell it, but most of the time they'll give it away. Now that's ridiculous, and if you're in a financial pinch and you do that, well, that's your own damn fault. So we shouldn't allow that to happen. We should change that. And this really requires not just the clinician who owns the practice, but all clinicians. I have a line that I say, and that is the only way to make more money is to make more money. And so if you're a staff member and you're trying to figure out, like, how can I generate more revenue for myself to take home to my family? How do I do that? And as an employer, how do you also do it? How do I actually generate more revenue to take care of my staff and feed my own family? How do we do that when we have a shrinking reimbursement environment with all kinds of closed opportunities, or at least so we think? Well, we're going to have to get over the fact that the patient is going to have to lean in and take a little bit more ownership of their health. And that might be financial ownership beyond what the insurance company already covers, right? So if we look at a StemWave, we're talking 50,000 in the lowest. So StemWave, shockwave, you know, pounding wave, whatever the wave is. So I'm not trying to pitch one thing. I just have a few clients on StemWave, right? So if you do, again, if you have StemWave and you're not even selling, you know, dry needling, well, perhaps what we talk about here in selling StemWave, you'll be able to apply and better your skills in selling dry needling. Let's at least get dry needling mastered before we maybe even go into deeply on how do we sell StemWave, although I won't stop you. I definitely won't stop you. So we're looking at a $0 reimbursement for StemWave, right? So I've been working with private practices forever, over 2,700 private practice owners I've worked with over the years, either through my group or myself personally. And I would tell you that probably our weakest failure, our greatest failure, is that we can't seem to figure out how to overcome our own personal sales avoidance. Not sales skills. We're not even trying that. We're talking about sales avoidance. Everything that we do to kind of back away from getting into that discussion because it might have money related to it. And a guy, I've sold millions of dollars worth of services over the years, and we all start somewhere, and I couldn't even close the door in the very, very beginning, right? So we can get there as a profession. We can get better at selling services. Now sales, let's get that out of the way, because you might be cringing on that word. It comes from the old English word selling, S-E-L-L-A-N, which means to give, to offer, or to lend a hand, selling. And so what we want to be able to do is lend a hand through this aspect called sales, right? So what we find is the end result is we're usually very good at explaining StemWave or whatever, dry needling, how it works, the mechanism behind it, the physiology behind it, what happens here. But when it comes to it's $175, or you can buy a package of 10 for $135, we really have a hard time there. And I'd like to get you better at it. So your failure to overcome the sales avoidance is an injustice to your patient. And I really want to make sure you understand that. Your sales avoidance is an injustice. Don't sell anything you don't believe in. Let's put that one straight up. But sometimes people don't believe in something because they're prejudging it because it costs money. I wouldn't pay for that. So you make these prejudgments. Don't have any prejudge. If it's something that could benefit a patient, you need to open your mouth. So if you believe that StemWave can actually help a patient get out of pain faster and create some lasting effect, and you're kind of held back on having that conversation, you're withholding vital data that can help the patient make a good decision about their health. You're prejudging. It's sales avoidance, right? So it's not sales skill. I don't know how to do it. It's sales avoidance. I don't know how to do it, so I don't do it. That's sales avoidance, right? So that's not being neutral about selling cash-based services. That's truly disservice that's dressed up as politeness. You're trying to be polite. So there's 5 stages of a clinician's sales discomfort. 5 stages. We'll walk through them here, right? The first is the avoider. They hear a noise. Click, 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 click. What's that noise? You know, like, oh, you know, I don't want to be pushy. I'll make make them ask, right? So they hear the noise and no one says anything, and they eventually go, what's that noise? Is something wrong? Oh, there's this thing called StemWave. Oh, what's that do? Oh, it helps people with some pain and discomfort, right? They're avoiding it, right? Or we have the next phase. We have the apologizer. The apologizer says, well, this isn't covered by your insurance. Well, we have this thing and it can help you. It can help your body heal better. It can improve your range of motion. It can actually work so very quickly, but your insurance doesn't cover it. You gave them the hook. You gave them the objection. You handed it to them on a silver platter. Your insurance doesn't cover it. You kind of toss that out right away before you actually even got to any level of commitment to do something about their health. Then we have the next level above that, which is what we call the educator. And this is where a lot of us are when it comes to cash-based services. We're into educating. We're talking about how it works and the mechanics behind it and any research you can cite that they really don't care about, but you're going to do this. And you might talk a long time about that and call that your sales process. And it isn't your sales process. That's just you having a conversation. You're still avoiding sales, right? So the next we have is the advisor. And the advisor actually takes the gap that exists in the patient's insurance plan against their goal that they have and gets them to see the disparity. One doesn't get you there. The other, if we focus on the goal, we can discuss how to get there, right? So we're advising them to make a change from kind of, do you want the insurance model that I stayed right down this path and it might take us a lot longer, or we might not even get there, or we can shortcut this path by going in another route, right? So that would be the advisor. You're kind of giving them a direction before you ever get into like how much it costs. You kind of get them to go, well, I could get there faster if I did this. That's the advisor. So then the next one above that is the advocate. So this, right, we're starting with, this is what you need, Joe. This is what we expect. This is the price. Ask for the money and don't flinch on the discussion, right? So these two here, the advisor and the advocate, is really what you're shooting for. That's where you want to get to. So when we're the avoider, you're not even having the conversation. When we're the apologizer, you're giving them an excuse and you're getting out of the conversation as fast as you can. If you're the apologizer and you start talking about the insurance that doesn't cover it, right away you set yourself up for a loss and you've short-circuited the entire sales process. You've short-circuited the whole thing. You've made it very easy for the patient to back out. Well, God, insurance doesn't cover it. Well, why won't they cover it? Well, I don't know sometimes. And then you're in the discussion about why they won't cover it, right? So if you're the apologizer, save your breath, right? Get beyond that. If you're the educator, what do they really need to know? They only need to know the details if it comes up. You don't have to present it. You really don't. The advisor, this is where you are. This is how far we can get you. We can get you there faster. We would take a more direct approach. You're interested in finding out about this? Yes. Good. It's called StemWave. Bang, 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 right? And then we move into the advocate and we actually get the close, right? So most clinicians, they'll stick around in maybe the 2 or 3. They're the apologizer, they're the educator. You know, we need to move into this 4 and 5 phase to really be able to get closes that will happen where we get into really meaningful conversations about something that could really benefit your patient. We have 2 ways in which we can fail a patient. One, we can oversell, right? We can push someone into something that they really don't need. They don't need it at all. So this is what everyone has a fear of, that they're going to push the patient into something that they don't need. We don't want that, right? We'll oversell it. Or we undersell. By underselling, we stay quiet, we hedge, we bury the ask, and we let them leave in pain because you just didn't make a good case, right? This is what I call the invisible risk. This is a failure that most clinicians don't really even consider it to be a failure, but it is a failure, right? Sales avoidance. So a 6-step conversion gradient that I think will get you where you want to go. The first is you want to be able to establish the gap in care between what we can do for this condition inside this bubble called your insurance plan, or what we could do if we could step a little bit outside of it. That's the gap. Next, we want to quantify the cost of inaction, how much longer it'll take if we don't confront it, how we can handle it possibly for good, success stories, results, and we can quantify that a little bit. We can get there faster. Next, we want to present an offer as a decision, right? So here's a decision that I think you should make. You should utilize something called StemWave, or we should be using dry needling. What is that? It's a very simple explanation, right? You don't give them a deep explanation, so you present it as something that can bridge the gap between where they are and what their goal is for coming in, right? And so you present the offer and you're getting them to just make the decision that they would like that, right? Then we want to get into the price. And then we state the price very succinctly. $175, something like that. $135 for a package of 10, right? Then we want to move into handle any hesitation with information. So when we get to this particular point, number 5, this is where they might start getting a little pensive. They'll start thinking or whatever. Stop talking, right? We'll get into that in a second. And we really want to get every question that they have, you have a handling for. You're sitting there, you're not trying to weasel out. You're just right there. You're answering their questions, right? What their considerations are. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to ask for that decision. So what do you say we get started here today? And we can get you on a schedule for next week. So each step should move you to the next step, okay? If you get establish a gap between, man, this is where you're at, we're really kind of plugging along, where our marginal gains are very, very small. You know, this won't go on forever with your insurance company. I think we can get there faster if we make a big decision here. But what this might cost you is a lot of time and possibly a lot of money. That's identifying, quantifying the cost of an action. Then we want to present the offer of this thing called StemWave, how it works, not the price. Then we get, and the goal there is we want them to decide, well, you know what, that sounds like exactly what I need. Good. Then you state the price. Then you handle objections, right? And then you ask for the decision. So the pattern here is that the close isn't a separate layered thing. It just kind of flows from one conversation to the next. It's a logical progression as you move through it. Break down these steps a little bit more. We want to establish the gap, then quantify the cost of staying still. So when we're establishing the gap, we want to anchor to what the patient already told you that they want, not the pathology on their scan. So you could try saying something like, so you told me you can't sleep on your right side still, and your shoulder keeps clicking with overhead motions. Is that still going on right now? Yeah. So that could be just establishing the gap in care, right? They have this, but it's still not going away. It may be improving, but it's not going away. And then we want to quantify the cost of inaction. So we let the patient say the cost of inaction out loud before any solution is mentioned. Most clinicians want to skip this and rush through it, right? So if this keeps progressing like it has, the list of things that you cannot do will start to kind of outstrip the list of things that you can. Does that make sense? Yeah, well, tell me about it. Well, you know, I'm noticing that I can't, you know, toss the ball with the kids in the backyard or something like that. And they start naming things that they can't do or they're having difficulty doing. You're getting them to really look at the future of not handling this problem. Then we move into present as a decision. So we want to name the option, we want to tie it into some stated goal, and then we want to stop talking. That's one of the things. When you get them really looking and they go quiet, don't talk. Just let that linger for just a moment. Stop talking. We're not doing a lecture on the mechanism of how this works, right? We're just presenting as a decision, right? So you can try saying, I think StemWave is what closes the gap here. It stimulates real tissue healing and not just masks the pain like some cortisone has done for you, right? So this gets down to really handling the problem. And the decision is that they want that. You're not trying to get the decision on the payment. You get the decision like, wow, that sounds fascinating. Yeah, we've had some phenomenal results with that. Oh my God, you know, and quickly. You'll notice a, you know, X% improvement just on the first visit. Really? Yeah. See, you're just getting the decision. I want that. Next, we want to state the price once and very plainly. And we want to deliver it in the kind of the same flow that we were already saying to the patient. We were very kind of casual, comfortable. Sometimes when we start talking about the money side, we get kind of serious, like, okay, now I need to tell you about how much it costs, right? Now they're sitting there, they're flowing right along. They want this. And now you go, I want to talk to you about the cost. And they're like, oh, okay, they back up. So just don't go there. Keep it nice and calm. Don't hedge, or when you get around to the number, don't flinch, right? Or they'll flinch if you do, right? So just say it's $175 a visit. It's a package of 10 is $135. I'd really recommend that you do the $135 per visit for 10, because we're not going to get you there on one visit, but we definitely could get you there by 10. However that works for you, right? So you want to handle any hesitation as an opportunity to present information, but not before we know what they're hesitating about. Don't make any assumptions that they're hung up on price. If there's a pause, they may not be hung up on price. They may be hung up on which credit card to use. They may be hung up on, like, normally I talk to my wife first. You know, they may be hung up on something, but never make the assumption. Make them tell you, right? So a pause could mean that they doubt that it'll work, they worry about the cost, or that they haven't haven't felt the cost yet of being in the status quo, right? You just don't know. So don't talk when they're thinking. That's really important. So when you say how much it costs, what happens is the person starts to look into his mind to get an answer. Like, can I afford this? Is this right? Am I going to get beat up by my spouse when I come home? I mean, what's going to happen to me, right? Do I trust this guy? All these things are happening, but you don't know. So when he's thinking, he can be very quiet, very pensive, right? And when he's like that, just be quiet. Just look right at him. Don't make it easy. Don't make it hard. Just look at them, confidently and comfortably, right? So if they're quiet for a while, you can let them silent, sit there for a bit, and then you ask them, so tell me, what are you thinking? And then don't guess, just like, what are you thinking? Don't guess. So next we want to ask for a decision. So we have two paths forward. Both of them should be forward, not no and yes. One could be, why don't we do one treatment? That would be the worst case. One would be a package. One would be a package. One would be like, why don't we do one? You decide after that. Oh, okay, right? So do you want to start today with a visit and we set up a package for next week and we start the package for next week? So each decision should be moving them in a closer direction. If it's dry needling, maybe there's a package for dry needling, or maybe you just do, let's just do one and you tell me what you think, right? Both of them move forward. So give them a decision to make and both of them are positive, okay? So the takeaway here, sales isn't a betrayal of clinical care. It's a form of it. So sales is a form of clinical care. Every stage of the gradient, from the avoider to the advocate, from establishing the gap to asking for the decision, is really one discipline, telling the patient the whole truth, including the number, so that they can make the choice that's actually theirs to make and not for you to make for them. Thank you.